Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward.
Welcome, everybody, and hello. My name is
How do you stand up?
What you need to do is be that person that's different
And it's bigger than you think.
brain health.
Rise from the ashes and fly.
How do our brains work? I am prefacing this with the same kind of disclaimer that I give from time to time. I am not a doctor. I'm not a neuroscientist. I am not a licensed therapist. The things that we are going to go over here, I'm going to provide you information that I gleaned from articles, studies, and a number of other things. I looked at probably about a dozen different sources, give or take, and I tried to accumulate some of that. I found things that were consistent throughout different articles, tried to find that. And then some of the recommendations that I'm going to make are basic recommendations. Specifics, the thing about our brain is that it is this amazing tool. It is this wonderful machine. There are all sorts of different things that did I lose my razor? No, I just haven't shaved. This is like a week's growth. One day I'll hit puberty and I'll have to shave on a consistent basis. Anyway, our brains, the way that they're so amazing. Now, as our brains age, a lot of different things happen. Okay. 1 through 7 is this time where they talk about, it's almost as if it's our subconscious mind is being written, right? All of that software is being written, who you are and everything else. Your brain doesn't get till when you're at about 6 years old is when it finally gets to about 90% of what its adult weight would be, but the synapses and everything else hasn't really accumulated yet. Overall brain maturity, fully matured brains, this is always fun. Men, they talk about men and women, and I'm not getting into a full discussion on all of the, gender differences and everything that's going on in society right now. But biologically, men's full brain maturity happens around age 30, women around age 22. So you guys have about 8 years on us where you get there a hell of a lot faster, right? Now that's overall synapses maturity and emotional maturity that's connected to it. But in many, many, many cases, men and women, a certain amount of decline begins in our 20s. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is overall brain health, how it functions, and then things that we can do to lessen the decline. And in some ways, I'm going to show you some examples of what they call super agers, where people are able to decline at a significantly slower rate than others and maintain a level of cognitive function well into their 80s, 90s, and even beyond, right? That's absolutely going on right now. They say if you're doing what you have to do and taking care of yourself, 80 is the new 50, learning new things is possible, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. So brain health. Now, the brain can build, here's something important to remember. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. I am going to give you guys these slides because I added in some links at the very end that you can look up a handful of articles that kind of flow along, and some of the images I think that I put in here can be helpful. So new nerve cells is called neurogenesis at any age, guys, not just when you're older. The act of the brain creating new nerve cells is neurogenesis. New connections existing between the brain cells, right? That in creating that and that process, that's neuroplasticity, and it can happen even into your later years. Okay. Now, the birth of neurons, and I know this is a little bit smaller for some of you. I'm giving you guys these slides. The birth of neurons for stem cells is called neurogenesis. In babies, most of the job is done before they leave the mom's belly. By 2 or 3, a lot more of it's done by the time you're 6, 7, 90% of that process has been created, right? Now, the olfactory bulb, that's in the front of the brain, it's sense of smell, and the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure that is located within the temporal lobe of the brain, just above your ears. It's important for learning, formation of memory, regulation of emotions, and spatial navigation. As you age, 30 to 50, 50 to 70, 70 and above, the hippocampus is one of the items that they see where there's actual shrink going on. shrinkage, right? Now, in the super agers, what they talk about is that shrinkage is much less pronounced. It is much, much, much slower. It doesn't end it completely, but it does significantly slow it down. And there's things that they can do where it even at times slows it down to where it's almost the decline is almost non-existent, and they can for a short period of time can even create enough neuroplasticity where they're still creating new connections. Okay, makes sense? Everybody following along still? All right. As expected, the discovery of neurogenesis in adults has raised questions. Now, research in some studies have been conducted that prove that we can play an active role in promoting production of new brain cells. It can improve our mood, our memory, and our learning skills at any age. At any age. So some of you guys like, oh, I'm too old. It's hard for me to learn this. That is laziness. And that's what I was harping on yesterday. You push yourself, you can absolutely learn new things. Now, neuroplasticity, it's the ability to adapt to change. In order to adapt, what your brain needs to do is create new neurological connections, new neural connections over time. That's how we adapt, master new skills, store memories, all of this stuff. So I've talked about this before. When we have the electric charges that are running through here, there are things called white tissue. I think I've got some of the stuff in here. White matter. Okay. White matter consists of the myelinated nerve fibers that are bundled into tracts and carry nerve signals between cells. Okay. So some of you guys remember this because I've talked about it before, but myelin. So we have our neurotransmitters. We have our nerve cells inside the brain. It's insulated with myelin. It's kind of this combination of protein and fat, the white matter that wraps itself around the brain, right? In order to change a habit, what needs to happen is your brain needs to go in and break that down and create new neural pathways. That's the neuroplasticity. Everybody following me along? We're all still here, yes? Okay, good. So what happens with age, though, is these things that have been created, these pathways that are myelinated, that are insulated with myelin, that myelin starts to break down as you get older. Now, I'm going to talk about certain supplements, and we're going to talk about the diet. And I'm going to talk about why and the difference between the diet and supplement. And we talk about activity and other things. But studies do show that that white matter starts to decrease at a certain age, right? And over time. And there are outside factors that will increase or slow that process down. For saying, I did read that the hippocampus deterioration can cause brain deficiency. Yes, absolutely it can. Because it's responsible for memory and cognitive function and other things like that, right? So if our hippocampus is deteriorating, then yes, those things will happen. Dementia is something that happens to a percentage of the population, but simply because you're aging doesn't mean that you're having, dementia. Forgetting things is normal for everybody. That, sometimes we joke about senior moments, but that really starts happening in some people in your 20s and 30s. Okay. There are a lot of different factors that play into this. So when I was working with the Alzheimer's Association, we worked with this. Yep. Cognitive acuity, absolutely. So I'm about to learn some new longboarding tricks to improve my neuroplasticity. Yep. I'm going to hit on a couple of simple things, but all right. Next, we're still up here. So this is kind of an example of neuroplasticity. This is neurogenesis. You're creating new neurological pathways. See how your brain does that? It's absolutely amazing, right? They talk about the supercomputer. It's mind-boggling. There's somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 billion different neurological connections. So it can acquire new knowledge, thereby actualize its potential for plasticity. If the new learning is behaviorally appropriate, in order for learning to physiologically mark the brain, that learning must lead to changes in behavior. In other words, new learning must be behaviorally relevant and necessary. Education and execution. Learn shit, do shit. If you don't add the second part in, your brain doesn't change, right? So what we're talking about here is beyond just brain games and Sudoku. right? That's great. That's nice. You know, playing some that can help a little bit. But if you want to increase neuroplasticity, if you want to actually change your brain and add connections, you've got to push yourself. Physically exercise, like pushing yourself with exercise, can do this. Your health, your body's health, meaning if I'm doing more push-ups and I'm pushing myself there, it can help my brain. If you're out walking, look, a small daily walk is great, but hey, if you push yourself a little bit more, it could actually increase your cognitive function. Oh my gosh, how crazy is that, right? You've got to push yourself. Now, what I'm talking to you guys about, there's a difference in, hey, I'm just trying to stay relevant mentally, and I want to improve my situation mentally. The other side of that, learning something new and applying that can be learning about technology, learning about marketing, and then applying it. Why? Because it's frustrating as hell. It's something brand new. You've got to learn it, and then you've got to do it. And your brain, this is what I was talking about yesterday, you keep going back to that well until you're able to get something out of it. Because your brains aren't barren. They're just waiting for you to push until it says, fine, I'll create a new neurological pathway, for crying out loud, because I'm tired of you bugging me. It's stressful. I need this new pathway to avoid that stress because I'm burning too many calories, because that's what your brain does, right? I'm using too much energy to do this. So I'm going to create a new pathway to make it easier for me. That's where the neuroplasticity comes in. That's what our brains try and do. Our brains don't like using a bunch of energy. So when you're trying to learn something new like this and you're getting frustrated, suck it up, buttercup, right? A little hard love today, because we're talking about actual brain health, actual cognitive function, actually improving yourself. That's what it takes. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get into some of the things. Keith is up to 500 push-ups a day. Here soon, he's not going to fit onto his screen. He's just going to be too big for all the rest of us. So yeah, changing your daily habits, different routines, using your non-dominant hand, all of those things. Those are simple things you can do really to increase serious neuroplasticity. We're talking about ratcheting it up to the next level. Learning a new language, absolutely. So that you can go shopping. Yeah. All right. So reward yourself. Okay. When you learn something new and when you're putting in effort, find a way to reward yourself. We are all in this world Pavlov's dogs. Ring that bell, leave me slobbering, right? Reward yourself. Okay. New learning in the form of interactive plays, especially conducive brain plasticity, was found to increase prefrontal cortex activity. All right. Next, brain shrinkage mostly affects the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. All of these things are important for complex thought processes, right? It can be affected by declining levels of neurotransmitters, changing hormones, deteriorating blood vessels, impaired circulation of blood glucose. Okay, the neurotransmitters, we're talking about the neuroplasticity to help there. Hormones, blood vessels, circulation, and blood sugars. Hormones, blood vessels, circulation of blood sugars. Guys, you're not going to fix that by learning a new language. I'm not going to fix my hormones by using all of these things. And Michael, I'm not diminishing in any way the things that you're talking about. All I'm simply saying, guys, is that they go hand in hand, right? I got to pay attention to my diet. I've got to do things to work on my circulation, right? I've got to pay attention to my hormones. All of you, if you're above the age of 30, should have your blood panels done and see how your hormones are. There's a good chance they're out of whack. We all are. Ladies, if you've hit that time in life where hormones go wacko, as if you guys don't deal with enough bullshit throughout your entire life when it comes to hormones, Go to a doctor, check it out, see if you can find something to help. Do you realize having your hormones in balance the right way will help you sleep better? It'll lower stress. It'll help you lose weight. It helps with cognitive function, right? Improving your circulation. They talk about a certain amount of belly fat, which also is correlated with type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes can increase your risk of things like dementia and Alzheimer's by as much as 20-25%. Take care of yourselves, guys. Do everything you can to take care of yourselves. Excuse me. All right, brain mass. Shrinkage in the frontal lobe and hippocampus. And guys, I'm pulling this from a number of different articles and studies and things. These aren't my words. I'm not the expert here. I'm giving you stuff from doctors and study after study after study, different things. And so I kind of pulled together information from different ones, right? So shrinkage begins around the age of 60 or 70. Cortical density refers to the thinning of the outer ridge surface of the brain, right? Fewer connections may contribute to slower cognitive processing. So you do the things to improve and increase and build new neuroplasticity, new neurotransmitters, because it's possible at any age. That white matter, this is what I was talking about, the myelinated nerve fibers, right? Myelin shrinks. Proteins and fats, essential fats, that's what your brain uses. If you were limiting those things in your diet, that can affect it. All right, now neurotransmitter systems, researchers suggest that the brain generates fewer chemical messengers with age. Guys, those chemical messengers are enzymes. I've talked about this before, right? Helping your body with enzymes. Your probiotics, digestive enzymes, because it helps your body break things down because your body produces enzymes. That starts declining around 30 years of age as well. These things like dopamine, acetylcholine, serotonin, all of these things are important. And we've talked about, I've done trainings on, and we'll circle back to how to increase healthy levels of dopamine. There's things that we can do with our diet, exercise, etc. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Okay, growth mindset, fixed mindset. You guys can look at this later. Next, here's some things that you can do. Sleep. You got to sleep, guys. You don't sleep, your emotions are off, your immune system is off. It releases more hunger, appetite stimulating hormones, so you eat more. Your judgment, your concentration are impaired. If you're not sleeping enough, you need to sleep. Okay. And maybe what I'll do is I'll try and find a sleep doctor. If any of you guys know a doctor that specializes in sleep, I'd love to have them on. Otherwise, I'm going to do some research and try and find somebody. Okay, next. Exercise. Reduces mental fatigue, reduces stress, helps fight depression, anxiety, mood elevation, runner's high, all of these things. Guys, exercise does so much, right? What were we just talking about right up here, right? It helps with hormones, helps with your blood vessels, with circulation, right? If I'm exercising, all of this stuff helps my brain, helps with the right levels of dopamine and serotonin. Guys, exercise, right? Next, friends. Study after study after study shows interacting with people socially can help you with your cognitive function. It helps with your immune system, which is crazy. Friendship, studies have shown over and over and over again that friendship and interacting with people improves our immune system, mental health, manages stress, reduces risks of early death, and increases tolerances for pain. And yet for the last 2.5 years, they have sequestered us and locked us down and quarantined us. And now they're starting to say, oh, by the way, it looks like 75%, at least here in the United States, 75% of the deaths that we said were COVID deaths were actually deaths caused by something else. They had as many as 4 different mortality inducing elements, and they just happen to have COVID at the same time. Oops. Sorry. Craziness, right? Now, I realize certain people had it, and I'm not getting into, I've had COVID myself. I don't want to dive into, everything else. It's an awful thing. Absolutely. But some people have quarantined themselves and then not connected in other ways, even virtually, through the phone, through text. They've tried to isolate in every possible way, or they've done it without even thinking about it. If you feel like you're isolated in any way, guys, start reaching out. Start reaching out. Okay, next, reading. This helps your cognitive function. It helps create new neurological pathways. It's important to do, guys. It really is. But I'm going to go back to what we set up here. Where was it? Must be relevant and necessary, meaning you've got to do it and you've got to learn it and you've got to apply it. So reading is great. Reading can be helpful, but you've got to apply it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today are vitamins and diet. Okay, vitamins and diet. Now, water, almonds, oranges, blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, pecans, dark chocolate, tea. Here is a list. It's much easier. Let me see. Easier to see here. Hopefully you guys can see this sum. I've got the graphic on here, so you'll see it in the slides and you can kind of pull it up for yourself. So it talks about the difference: vitamin B1, B12, B9, B2, vitamin complex vitamin Bs, all these different things, right? Helps nerve and brain communicate, helps prevent buildup of plaque in the heart, helps with energy, brain health, boosts the mood, reduces risk of heart disease, maintains nerve and blood health. All of those things are different forms of vitamin B. Here's the foods that will give it to you: sunflower seeds, beans, pork, whole grains, lean meat, eggs, almonds, milk, leafy vegetables, beans, orange juice, meat, fish, dairy, et cetera, et cetera. There's vitamin D, vitamin C, omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, zinc. Here's study after study after study that I was reading. And I was a little surprised by this. Okay. Low fat diets have been a disaster to the brain, but good fats, yes, absolutely. Feeling connected. I haven't had a friend out in almost 4 years outside of my hairstylist. Time to see some more people. Go ahead.
Sorry for that. I want to take a picture for this. Can you please?
I'm going to give you. Yeah, I'll pull it back up, but I'm also going to give you guys the slides. They're going to be posted in the Skype chat for you.
Okay, thank you.
You've got them there, so it's easier to see. So here's what I found though. I looked at a lot of different studies, right? And all of them seem to kind of say the same thing. Certain supplements can help to an extent. Diet is more important. Okay? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but the level of difference is significant, even with things like omega-3s, right? I take an omega supplement, right? Fish oils and other stuff. But they show that actually eating the fish is going to do better for you. Now, they talk about a Mediterranean style diet is one of the healthiest that you can eat as far as cognitive function goes. It's high in fish, olive oils, olives, fruits, vegetables, right? So they talk about a Mediterranean diet. So the blue zones. Because you're going to be one of the people I'm going to have talk, Patricia, you're going to have to explain to us what the blue zones are. Or does now my curiosity's peaked. Patricia, what's the blue zones?
All right, so the blue zones, it's the reason they're called the blue zones is because there are 5 places in the world that they've circled with blue ink. That's all. That's the reason they call it that, where people live long into their 90s and 100s in good, vibrant health. And it's based on all the things that we're talking about with nutrition, socialization, movement every day, and things like that. So there's cookbooks, there's books, there's challenges, and you can buy food from all over in the blue zones as well. So the 5 blue zones are Sardinia, Greece, Costa Rica, Loma Linda, California, and Okinawa. So those are the 5 places that they've identified where people in their cultures have these similarities, which are based on socialization, good health, nutrition, and movement, and things like that. So it's just really cool.
Friends, family is important.
Exactly.
Mediterranean, over in Asia, family is incredibly important. All of these different things. So Cool. Well, we'll look in some of that up. But again, it just kind of reinforces what we're talking about, right? So your diet, guys. So it's not, here's the thing where you've got to look at all of it. So because I understand we have people that may be vegan or vegetarian. We have some people that are all about paleo, and we have others that are, or keto, and we have this, and we have that. Over and over, everybody's going to be a little bit different. I recommend doing a nutritional analysis, like a live blood analysis, seeing how your body reacts to different foods, because even if, these are the healthiest foods that you can eat for your brain function, some of us are lacking enzymes to break certain things down. That's why we have different food allergies, right? A food allergy is simply your body not having the enzymes to break down a certain type of food. That's what it is. So I recommend getting that done, checking it out. That said, eat some salmon, right? Eat some fish once in a while. Look at some of these leafy vegetables and other things. Vitamin D is on there. Vitamin D supplement is great, but sun provides vitamin D for you, right? We live in an amazing universe. You can walk outside and get vitamins by getting in the sun, right? Vitamin E is important, but you don't want to over supplement vitamin E because problems can happen. Vitamin B in the vitamin B complex, you can't really overdo it with vitamin B, because if you do, it's water soluble. You're just going to pee it out anyway, right? But magnesium is great. It's better for sleep than a lot of other things. Over usage of certain medications they talk about, right? Certain prescriptions. If you take Benadryl too much, some people take Benadryl to help them sleep a little bit better. I can't remember the exact term, but what Benadryl and certain other drugs and over-the-counter drugs that are just like it are the exact opposite of the drugs that they would give people when they're starting to experience dementia and Alzheimer's, right? The exact opposite. And Benadryl and things like that are shown they can build up in the system. They don't just go away. So that's something to pay attention to. Oh, I've got allergies, I just take a Benadryl. Well, if you do that every day for so many months, by the time you get to a certain age, that's built up in your system, right? Now, there are things that you can do to kind of cleanse and, get toxins out and other things. And I'm not going to dive too much into that. But the point of all of this is that your brain can be healthier than it is. I don't care how old you are, you can still learn. And you can get your brain healthier than it is right now. You can change the pathway that you're on to one of a better health. We should all strive to become super agers. Now, I included on the slides here. Okay, so I have this picture on the slides. You guys will have it, right? So look at the actual foods that provide these vitamins and not just the supplements, okay? Now, along with that, I've included a few links that's on here, okay? One of these is the super agers. Look at it. I was reading these things. I thought it was so incredibly interesting because I've had family members with dementia, right? I have problems with sleep. I know that affects my brain health. I've had those times in my life where I know my diet and stress and everything was messing me up, and I could feel that bit of brain fog. Absolutely know it was there because I felt when the clarity came about as well. As the point of all of this, please just pay attention to you. Do what you need to take care of your brain so we can all stick around a little bit longer and think a little bit more clearly well into our old age. And maybe at
sometimes
some point
people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think.
Take care of your brain. Rise from the ashes and fly like the good, be healthy. All right.